This isn't a story of saints and devils. It's a story of illusions, hidden scripts running in the background of every mind, quietly shaping the way we live and love. Carl Jung called it projection. I call it the theatre where men lose themselves. What you think is her choosing you is often just a reflection of the character she's been rehearsing inside her head. You're not an exception. You're a role. And when the play changes, you're left standing on the stage, stunned, wondering what went wrong. The answer is simple and invisible. You were never chosen for your truth. You were chosen for a part. If you believe love is always soft and sweet, this will hurt. If you think being wanted means being seen, this will burn. Today, we're going to dive into the shadow side of female psychology. How a woman can control a man. How, when a man is in love, he can lose his center and do almost anything for her. We'll look at how women unconsciously use this shadow to control, and why most men never notice it until it's too late. Here's what we're going to cover. First, why inside every fantasy of a perfect man lies a hidden slave, and he doesn't even know it. Second, how romantic love can become a way for men to escape their own souls. Third, the scariest truth of all, when you finally choose yourself, the world will try to convince you that you're wrong. This isn't for the faint of heart. This is for men willing to look in the mirror. Men who aren't afraid to face uncomfortable truths. If that's you, keep watching. The beginning is always the same. She doesn't see you for who you are. She sees you through the lens of who she wants you to be. That sparkle in her eyes, that hunger, you think she gets you, but she's not seeing you. She's sizing you up, like a blank canvas she can paint her own imagination onto. And that picture? It isn't you. It never was. Carl Jung warned us about this, not in self-help slogans, but as a surgeon of the soul. He spent his life exploring the hidden machinery of the human psyche and found a hard truth about women. They don't just love men. They love the idea of a man they've built in their minds. It's not the real you. It's an avatar of you. Most women don't even realize they're doing it. You think she's choosing you. In reality, she's choosing the role she wrote for you in her own internal script. And the moment you stop fitting that role, the casting changes. Fast. This isn't just a story, it's a psychological reality. Jung called it the Animus, the inner masculine that lives inside every woman. And when that animus is incomplete or unrefined, it doesn't nurture, it dominates. It becomes a dictator, an invisible force that pulls women toward dangerous men and pushes away the grounded ones, without her even realizing it. When dominance replaces reflection, morality becomes control. Jung didn't soften his words. He called it spiritual possession, a poison of the psyche, where a woman no longer speaks from her own soul, but from the shadow man ruling inside her. And men, this is where you get caught, because no one ever taught you how to see the game. You assume that if someone chooses you, it must mean they understand you. That if you're wanted, your soul must have been seen. But the truth is, they weren't listening to your words. They were fitting your face into a script written long before you arrived. Ever wonder why she chose you? The reality is she didn't. She chose the role, one she'd been carrying since childhood, and you happened to wear the mask that fit. But when her walls of imagination collapse, when the projection shatters, you're left stunned, asking, what did I even do wrong? The answer? Nothing. You simply stopped playing the part in her movie. You stopped existing inside her imagination. Jung called it the theatre of the mind, and there's only one way out of it: individuation. The path to becoming whole isn't glamorous. No applause, no audience. It demands everything you've avoided, your fears, your weaknesses, your broken truths. It forces you to stop blaming women and start confronting yourself. Jung understood a truth most men still don't grasp. Becoming a man isn't about being chosen. It's about choosing yourself. Your worth isn't defined by someone else's love. It's defined in the moment you awaken, take responsibility, and stand alive in your own being. A man who has faced his subconscious can't be fooled by projection. He's no longer a puppet in someone else's play. He becomes the author of his own reality. What's the real tragedy of our time? It's not rejection. It's self-abandonment. Men shape themselves into whatever form they think will be accepted. They call it compromise, a relationship, even love. But Jung had a word for it: self-betrayal. He warned that men who neglect their own growth become prisoners of a woman's imagination, softening like wet clay, moulding themselves into whatever she desires. In the process, you stop being a man. You become a mask, always agreeable, always performing, until you can't even remember who you were before the mask. And here's the bitter truth. Women sense this faster than you think. The devotion you see as love is often the very thing that repels her. Why? Because, as Jung said, a woman's true nature is drawn not to comfort, but to mystery. She's magnetized by the man she can't fully grasp, the man she can't control. The moment you strip away all boundaries, erase your backbone and become an open book, your attraction fades. You don't just lose her attention. You become invisible, disposable. That's when the fear of being alone creeps in. Instead of facing it, most men hide. They choose to be fake, to live as supporting characters in someone else's story, just to avoid the silence of solitude. But Jung taught that until a man accepts loneliness, he cannot taste freedom. Individuation, becoming your true self, is not for the faint of heart. To walk that path, a part of you must die. The false self you built for approval has to burn away so that something real can rise. But here's the part no one dares to admit. Individuation is lonely, terrifyingly lonely. Because once you start down that path, you can't unsee the truth. You notice the masks others wear, the games they play just to feel safe. And you realize freedom isn't found in applause, but in becoming the man who no longer needs it. You see through the lies people tell themselves. They repeat the mantra, everything's fine, everything's okay, but when you try to speak the truth, they mock you. They call you cold, arrogant, overthinking. The problem. You're not the problem. You're the mirror. And people despise mirrors because mirrors reveal their real face. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He spent his life helping people confront the shadows they'd rather ignore, the dark, rejected parts of themselves they were too afraid to face. He warned that women, in particular, often grow up in cultures that reward them for avoiding their shadow. They're told they're already pure, intuitive, emotional, complete as they are. But Jung never accepted that illusion. He wrote that the greatest danger for women is their unconscious animus, the inner masculine voice that speaks with false authority, false morality, and false certainty. If she doesn't confront that power inside, she becomes its prisoner. She projects it outward, onto men, and wages war not with them, but with the shadow within herself. And here's the trap. You tell yourself you'll save her, that you're different, that your love will be enough to make her accept you as you are. But projection doesn't work that way. Jung said projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with illusion. Until both man and woman wake up, they'll repeat the same tragedy again and again, both blaming each other, without realizing they're only dancing with their own shadows. And the cruelest twist? The woman who once saw you as her hero will eventually see you as her enemy. Not because you changed, but because no man can ever live up to the image she unconsciously forced onto him. She never really saw you. She saw a story she invented about you, some mythical figure you never even claimed to be. And when reality broke through that illusion, she wasn't angry at you. She was angry at the collapse of her own fantasy. The lie wasn't yours. It was the dream she created without your consent. Jung called this psychological betrayal. When someone refuses to own their projections and instead blames you for failing to live up to their imagination. This is why she's upset today. Not because of your flaws, but because you couldn't play the roles in a script you were never given. And Jung once wrote, "People will go to any lengths, no matter how absurd, to avoid confronting the truth of their own soul." Nowhere is that more obvious than in relationships. When a man and a woman come together, they rarely meet as whole beings. They arrive carrying projections, unfinished fears, unmet needs, and childhood wounds. They don't fall in love with each other. They fall in love with the reflection of what they've been missing. That's not romance. Jung called it a spiritual takeover. And yet, you keep repeating the cycle. Each time you swear it will be different, but it never is. Why? Because you avoid the hardest question. What if all of this is my responsibility? It's easy to blame women, call them cunning, shallow, or deceptive. But if Jung were here, he'd cut through the excuses with one question. Then, why did you choose her? The truth is, as long as a man avoids confronting the feminine within himself, he'll keep seeking it outside and become enslaved by his own instincts. You're not a victim. You volunteered for the role of prisoner. You played along in someone else's fantasy because facing your own unfinished soul terrified you even more. And here's where most men stop listening, because this is the point where comfort ends and responsibility begins. Jung never promised easy formulas or alpha male success stories. He offered only one brutal path, the lifelong battle of turning inward. The real war is fought in silence, when you sit alone with your mind and face that inner voice whispering. Without her, you are nothing. That voice will tempt you, beg you, trick you. It will insist you need her validation, her love, her approval to survive. But Jung's voice cuts deeper. The man who needs no one is the only man who is free. Freedom doesn't come from applause, agreement, or affection. It comes from standing whole, even in solitude. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming real. When you finally ground yourself in your own truth, you don't lose warmth. You gain depth. You stay alive, whole, and present. And here's the paradox. The women you once tried to impress begin drifting away. Why? Because you no longer see them as something to win. You smile not from indifference, but from understanding. She's on her own path too. Until she wakes up from her illusions, she can't truly see anyone, and you can't save her. All you can do is what Jung described. Walk your path with such certainty that your very being becomes a mirror of truth. Most people will look away from that reflection, but a rare few will thank you for showing it. That's when you discover the real difference, being loved for a mask versus being respected for who you are. And when you stop pretending, something unexpected happens. Your presence unsettles people. They can't explain why, but they feel it. You no longer fit into their definitions, and as Jung warned, the individuated person is rarely embraced by society. You'll be called distant, arrogant, misunderstood. But the truth is more dangerous. You become untouchable, unmarketable, immune. You've seen the game for what it is. And that's when those who once chased your attention, who fed on your validation, may even begin to resent you, especially those still clinging to fantasies of the perfect man. They'll say you're distant, locked in your head, emotionally unavailable, but you're still here. You've stepped back and the truth doesn't grip you anymore because you stopped playing their game. You stopped reading from their script, and without it, no one can predict you now. Sometimes a man drops the role he was performing and finally shows up as himself. Carl Jung once joked that the gods of old have turned into modern illnesses. What people once worshipped as divine power, psychology now labels as neurosis. And there's no doubt, the sickest people today are the ones addicted to validation. You think you do anything for her, that she's your everything. But is that really love? Jung would say no. What you're really doing is refusing to carry your own soul. When you load all your meaning, hope, and identity onto a woman, you're just dodging the responsibility of carrying yourself. Here's the brutal twist. When she realizes she was never meant to carry your soul, she drops you, and it feels like betrayal. But it isn't. No woman, no matter how loving, can shoulder the weight of a man who won't hold himself up. That collapse hurts. You feel exposed. But hidden in that pain is a gift. The illusion shatters and you finally face a truth you always knew. Becoming a man was never her role. It was always yours. And now you've got two choices. You can blame her, curse women, and join the crowd of bitter men. Or you can do what the younger you always hoped you'd do. Turn inward. It's terrifying, yes, but it's the path to becoming whole without needing anyone else to complete you. Because here's the real secret. The woman you're searching for out there is just a reflection of the part of yourself you abandoned. Until you reclaim that part, every relationship will feel hollow. Every connection will feel like a transaction. Every love will feel like a lie. But the moment you face that shadow, the feminine within, you change. You stop chasing. You stop performing. You stop begging for validation. You become a man who doesn't need to impress anyone because you finally carry your own soul. You don't need to put on an act. You don't need a role, a mask, or a performance. You stand steady, grounded, whole. And that's where the real power begins. The women who step into your life won't fall for a character you play. They'll see the man you actually are. And you'll know them because they won't ask you to change your story. They won't chase some polished fantasy of you. They'll show up as real too. Not perfect, not pretending, not playing games, just honest, raw, and alive. And when you meet a woman like that, you'll feel it immediately. She won't need to tell you, "You're my everything." She won't act like you're the missing piece that completes her. Why? Because she's already complete. She's faced her shadows, burned through her illusions, and made peace with her own fire. She doesn't need you to carry her. She'll stand before you, not asking for rescue, but simply to be seen. That's the rarest, most dangerous kind of love. The kind born not from need, but from freedom. The freedom to choose. The freedom to walk away. The freedom to stand side by side with nothing hidden. No masks, no illusions. But here's the truth. Most men never get there. They quit too soon. They settle for performance and fantasy. They keep clinging to the fake hero act because the hardest thing they could face is the question, who am I, really? But if you have the courage, the kind that rips you open from the inside out, then keep going. Stand alone. Strip away every false layer you've used to cover yourself. Break down every lie you've told just to feel like somebody. Because only then do you find her. not just a woman, yourself. And when you stand at that edge where fear and beauty collide, you'll finally see. You won't look at women as mirrors anymore. You won't need them to reflect your manhood back to you, because you already know, you'll already be. Thought for 27 seconds, they won't be a trophy. They'll be a partner, not a prize, a mirror, not a mother, a teammate, not a protector. And when that happens, you love from strength, not from need. You love because you choose to, not because you beg permission to be yourself. The fight you've been through didn't hand you a map. It left a warning. Any man who refuses to face himself becomes a slave to other people's projections. He lives by the reflections in other eyes. He hands his power away. But there's a challenge in what was left. Choose yourself. Stop blaming. Stop measuring your worth through someone else. Stop waiting to be picked. A man who fully chooses himself, who isn't bending for approval, can't be fooled by fantasy. No performance will hold him. No script will bind him. He becomes the author of his life. If these words hit you, don't scroll past them like another clip. Stop. Breathe. Do something. Like this video. Share it with a brother still lost in the noise. The one still hunting freedom in someone else's shadow. Subscribe if you want more of this truth, because your support helps the next man who's still asleep. Here are 3 harsh truths this video will make you face. What you called love was often just a way to run from your own soul. You weren't always the lover. Sometimes you were a character in someone else's story. When you choose yourself, the same world that cheered you on may call you dangerous. This is your last chance to be real. Save yourself. Think it through. Choose yourself. Living by someone else's script isn't an option anymore.